Craig, really pleased to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Whereabouts are you based?
I live in Atlanta, Georgia, across the pond in the USA.
Fa- Of course. And we were put in touch through Dave at Scubaverse, who tells me you've just been working on the newly released film Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever.
Correct.
Sounds fantastic. Can you tell us a bit about what you're doing?
I was working with the underwater unit um, um, for probably about 4 months worth of work we did between all the camera tests, all the wardrobe tests, all the stunt testing, and principal photography was probably 2.5 months of that. So there was a whole lot of pre-work up to before we started shooting, but that's basically what I was working on.
And what exactly was your role? What were you actually doing on set?
So I was working as an underwater set electrician. So I kind of fall under the camera department, uh, gaffer lighting, underwater lighting, and then we had a whole bunch of great underwater rigging grips that were rigging set pieces and moving platforms in and out. And the stunt team, it was just as big. And then we had, your principal actors, and then stunt performers, and then everyone had water safety. So I mean, it was a big lot of people in the water for what little that you see on TV. It was a lot of moving parts behind the scenes.
So, what particularly was your role? So, as a lighting electrician, what does that involve?
Well, what we would do is we go in and we would light the scene underwater. Um, so we shot everything on a blue screen, so the editors could edit out what they want. So the first thing we do in the morning is we get in the water and we light the whole blue site, and then according to whatever scene we were shooting, then we come in, we add accent lights to it. Just depends on what Pete was looking for, the DP, Pete Zuccarini. So that's kind of what we did. And then we were shooting at the bottom of the ocean, and obviously there's really no light down there. So to try to keep it as realistic as possible, we didn't overlight it. So there was a lot of days we didn't do a whole lot of lighting. So I would fall in the camera department and help them with, when the cameras are underwater, making sure things were running right, slating and stuff like that. So we were always busy.
What an amazing job! My goodness. So,
It
I
was
mean,
fun.
so everything was shot in a set.
Correct. We try to do. They try to do as much stuff underwater as they could. They wanted to give it much more of a realistic look than. I don't want to talk about the other cartoon water show, but apparently that was all shot out of the water, and they really didn't like the way that looked. So they really wanted to do as much in the water as they could. So that's what we tried to do. Um,
And communication wise, I assume there's communication underwater between you all, or are you having instructions before you go in? I mean, how does all that work?
so we have witness cams that kind of point across the set. And we have a big round tank, and obviously you shoot one direction. So we try to keep everything back behind camera, obviously. So you have a witness camera there that kind of shows the director and video village everything that we're doing. So um, the way they would, so we have an underwater comms where they can talk to us. So the AD can get on a mic and say, "Hey, can you move this light this direction, or can the talent move over here?" So we could hear them, but obviously we can't really communicate back. But we would use hand signals just like you would if you're a tech diver or a cave diver. So it wasn't a whole lot between us. We just knew what we needed to do, and then we would come up when they were shooting a scene, and then then they would go over the scene and say, yeah, this looked like that. Let's look like this. Let's do this and move things. And then we'd go down as a team and move stuff like that. So that's kind of how most of the communications worked.
Oh, excellent. Well, I mean, that sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So throughout the thing, I mean, any underwater film has its challenges. So like, what were the biggest challenges on set for you?
Just everything moves slow, so you can't move anything fast. So if you got I don't know how familiar you are with the biz, but like say we have a bunch of lights, we had some underwater sky panels, and we were shooting them through like an 8x frame. They had diffusion, right? So we're trying to soften the source up to what we're shooting. Well, outside in the real world, two people can move that in a matter of 30 seconds. You just pick it up and move it. But when you got something that's that big and you're moving it in the water, it doesn't move. I mean, it's like, it's all the not energy, but all the force with the water. So little things like that, you don't realize till you get into that situation. So we had to move something. It just moved kind of slow. But fortunately, it was a big show, and they kind of knew that. And so we were never, ever rushed, really, with anything. If they wanted to change a set piece, we'd have to bring a crane in and lift something out. It was, but that would probably be it, how, slow it would take to do things. It's as simple as move a light stand, like a combo light stand weighs 45 pounds out of the water, which is really easy. You just pick up, but in the water, you're trying to stay neutral, buoyancy wise. You really can't. You got to figure out how to move things, right? So if you pick something up 45 pounds and get neutral and swim it across the tank, the minute you set it down, you're going to go like a rocket ship, and you can't dump air that fast, right? So just little things, like I would pick a stand up and I would just almost like an astronaut, I would bounce. So I'd use the bottom of it, and I'd push off the pool and leapfrog it and just move it across the pool and then set it down and, set the lights in. But little things like that, you kind of, you pick up on but it's challenging in ways, but it was definitely a lot of fun.
It does sound it, and fabulous working with a great big team as well, I should think. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, with all that going on, I mean, do things ever go wrong?
I can't think of anything. We didn't really have anything go wrong, especially like safety wise. I think the biggest issues that we had, and of course anyone would have to figure this out, was probably like we did like 10 days of testing with wardrobe, because they had some extravagant wardrobe. So they were gluing all these feathers and animal pelts together. And once you put them in the water, 30 seconds later, it's coming off. So I mean, but from what we did, I mean, all the stunts went off perfect. The second team stunt people, they were really good, and then even the main character, everyone loves being in the water. So, but it was fun.
I mean, with any underwater shoot at all, for me certainly there's always one highlight that remains with me, and I think, oh yeah, and I shall remember this for months, if not forever. I mean,
Right.
Did you get one of those on this film?
I've been doing this for 35 years, since I was a teenager. So I've been into film biz a long time, done a lot of movies. And I've been a diver for almost as long. Just recently, I've started doing underwater movies. So it's been around. I just haven't been able to do them. But at my age and in my experience, that I really like sitting back, third person, and watch pros, real good people do their craft. And watching Pete Zuccherini, who's a great guy, but just sitting back and watching him operate a camera was something you don't ever think about how hard it would be. But just, I mean, he's perfectly neutral. He moves that camera like it's nothing, and it makes it look so easy. It's crazy, but watching him work was probably one of my favorite. And then the stunt team, the way they could um, come up with stuff and rig it underwater. Like they had one scene where the underwater army comes shooting out of the water. So they're underwater and they had run all these lines underwater and on these this pulley system. They would just pull them through the water and then they would shoot out. And but watching them do all that was really cool. I was like, I really in my next life I want to be in the stunt people. I want to work on the stunt team.
So I mean, how big is the set?
We had two underwater sets. We had one that was it was a round 55-foot tank, 20-foot deep. There's a company called Film Pools. I think it's filmpools.com, but they do all these portable film tanks that we shoot in. And I think the last 4 shows I've worked on, movies or TV shows, that's what we use. So they can build these things anywhere. They're heated to 92 degrees. They manage the pool. I mean, they're super cool set. And then we had a big one that was outdoors that they dug, I think it was about 10-foot deep, and then they built a 4-foot ring around it. But that pool was, I think, about 60 by 80 and 14 feet deep. Now we had some scenes, we had some really big equipment that they just couldn't put in that small tank, so we had to go out there and shoot. But that one was outdoors, and we shot that almost this time of year last year. So it was 34 degrees outside, and we were shooting all night long, which wasn't much fun. But that was the two ways we shot it.
I got to just remind people, 34 degrees. You're American, so you're working in Fahrenheit.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's what, just above 0 for y'all, right?
Right.
But yeah, and it was really windy too. So the water was heated. So as long as you're in the water, you're fine. The minute you jumped out, you were freezing. So we'd sit in the water like turtles. We have just our nose above the water. To stay warm. The minute you stuck your head out, you're like, you almost give you a headache. The wind was blowing so hard. But
how are the stars coping with all this? How are they coping with the underwater work and the cold and?
The indoor stuff obviously was nice. The outdoor stuff we did, that was mostly stunt people. I don't know we had the main first unit characters on that. They might have come out, but that was mostly stunt work. So they had a stunt team doing stuff, but they had they would have heated tents, and I think they had a bunch of hot tubs. They had a bunch of portable hot tubs that they could go jump in, and then we would we'd go over the scene, we'd light it, stunt team would rehearse it a couple times, and then they would bring in the first unit. We'd shoot a take, reset. Pete would go talk to the director, or AD, and figure out what they wanted to change, and they shoot it again and get a few takes, and then we'd start it off.
Craig, you've just broken up. Oh, you're back again. Sorry, you broke up for a minute there. No.
But that was kind of how it worked. But I don't think they're really out there those cold nights that I remember.
I think the next time I do, because I do most documentaries, next time I do one, I'm going to ask for a hot water tank at the side.
It's nice.
Yeah, I'll see how that goes down.
Yeah, we
do you
had a.
get,
I did a.
sorry.
Go ahead.
So, I was going to say with the stars and the stunt people and everything, do you get to socialize with anyone, or do you keep fairly separate after the shoots and things?
Um, yeah, I mean, we were really social. The I'm so bad with names, and it was so long ago. We shot the tank stuff probably a year and a half ago. The outdoor stuff we shot last year. So we kind of broke things up. I think they were trying to make it up as they went along too. So they were shooting the movie, knowing they wanted to do as much underwater as they could. But we're, doing that is so expensive. And of course, everything's got a budget. So I think a lot of it was like, can we keep this out of the water? Can we do it in the water? And then they decide, okay, we got to get in the water for 4 or 5 days. So they would call us and we'd all go back in and do like a week long or 2 weeks long type deal.
Right.
It's kind of how they worked it. Because I'm pretty sure they had an out of water set they were trying to do, and I haven't seen the movie yet. I need to go see it. It just came out, and I'd love to see, because I can tell what we did in the water and what they didn't, and I'd love to see how much all the time we spent, what it turns out screen time. You know what I mean? Yeah, they were really cool. I also did same crew. We did 2 weeks on Stranger Things, the last season of Stranger Things. Same pool, film pools. They built us a pool. Set department built the bottom of this lake that looked so real that you literally had to swim down and touch it to tell that it wasn't mud. I mean, it was the most realistic thing I'd ever seen. Same stunt team. Actually, that's how we moved on to Black Panther, because we were doing Stranger Things and Black Panther was formulating, putting together, and they had called Pete about, hey, we got, this underwater movie. And he's like, hey, I want this whole crew off Stranger Things. We're already there. He's like, I want us all to roll over into that. So we were like, so we just moved straight into that.
So there's Avatar has a lot of underwater stuff as well, doesn't it? Were you involved in that at all?
No, Pete shot that. Pete is really close with Cameron, and the rumor was that they're going to release the next 2, and hopefully, if it does what he thinks, James thinks, numbers wise, they'll go on and shoot 4 and 5 back to back, like they did 2 and 3. And apparently, there's supposed to be more water work in the next 2, because James loves doing water stuff. So, and I would love to get on that crew. I'm really trying to position myself to work with them when they do that. One reason why I've always wanted a rebreather, but it's one reason why I got on the rebreather and been diving a lot with it lately. But
how did you get into this in the first place?
Well, I kind of diving and working was both. I was in college, didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wound up on a commercial, and it was like, this is just the coolest thing ever. I've always had a creative part of me, wanted to create something, and when you walk on a commercial and you see the creativity of just doing a scene, everyone, from hair and makeup to lighting, rigging, all that stuff. So that's how I did that. And then just being a teenage boy, I wanted to go diving, so I got certified then. And then my daughter, I got her certified about 7 years ago when she turned 14, and that's when I really turned it on hardcore, started diving a lot. So I guess about 7 years we've been tech diving and cave diving recently, and just got my rebreather about a year and a half ago.
You enjoying it?
I'm liking it. It's hard to dive, but it's fun. I finally got over that hump. Finally got over that hump where it's just, it's gels. You're like, oh my gosh. So it's like that kid trying to ride. I tell everybody, it's like when you're a kid and you're trying to ride a wheelie on a bicycle. You can't get it forever. It's like diving or rebreathing. You can't get it, but all of a sudden you get it, and it's like that was easy. So I've kind of hit that part. I'm having a blast with it. So I just need to dive it more.
Fantastic. Craig, it's been brilliant chatting with you. Thank you for taking time to do this, because I know you're quite busy. Just one thing, your next project,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? Do you know?
Underwater wise, I don't. I wish there was a lot more stuff like that going on. I just did a job yesterday. There's a small movie that was doing a scene in a lake. It was just like a love scene, just a couple, kissing and talking. And it got so cold here in Atlanta. We're below 0 in Celsius. And they were like, there's no way we're going to put this talent in the lake. We just can't do it because our temperatures have really dropped like the last week. We've finally feeling winter. So I went and blacked out a pool up north side of town and blacked it all out and put them in there. And we shot there yesterday. So the talent loved it. They're like, thank you for not putting us in 30-degree weather in a lake. So, but next big job, I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm praying. I'd love to get on that Avatar deal, though. That would be nice.
But you're freelance.
Yes.
I mean, that's the freelance world, isn't it?
Right.
You think nobody loves you, and then you wait for the phone. Yeah.
So I've got normal stuff. Like I work as a key grip mostly. So I've got commercials coming up, but nothing underwater.
Right.
I'm trying to go dive as soon as we got Thanksgiving holiday coming up, and then I think I'm working the following week. But as soon as I get a week off, I'm heading to Florida to do some cave diving. I got to get back in the water, so that's where I'll be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's hard to be out for long.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you again for taking the time to do that. And best of luck in the future.
I appreciate it. Hey, sorry it took so long to get to you.